See, it takes a few seconds, so I'm going to give it a few seconds. Let's say 10 seconds. Okay, I'm live. It's the Nazarite, bringing you Hebrew lore from days of yore. We already have T. Mahagnois in the house. Hi, T. How you doing? Any question? Anything to add? He says, really excited, as am I. It's nice to go live. It's nice to be here. It's nice to continue the ongoing discussion from last week, from yesterday. Hey, hi there. Okay, so I'm going to continue basically the chat from yesterday, which I was a little too tired, so I had to go. But I'm going to continue as if nothing happened. So first, there was a question by BMXers with dreadlocks. Henceforth he shall be known as BMXers. And he says, if I may ask a personal question, why do you grow your beard then, right? If the Nazarite is only commanded to grow out the hair on one's head, why do I grow the beard? And does your beard, especially your mustache, physically bother you as did mine? So I answered that it just felt natural to me to grow a beard. I mean, my father has one. That's not necessarily the reason why I have one, but I never had the urge really to shave, and my beard has been with me ever since my teens. This is basically my first beard, right? I shaved a couple of times when I was a teen and just had a little teenage mustache, and I basically let it just come in as it were. The only time that I shaved where I had like the beginning, the wisps of a beard, was one time during basic training, and that's a different story, which I have told on this channel, but I'll spare you. I shaved it for one time when I was 20 years old, and ever since I just let it grow. As for the mustache, I do trim the mustache because it can get in the way of eating, and more importantly, it can get in the way of kissing. So I trim the edges of the mustache, which try to cover the upper lip. And other than that, I don't trim it at all. Not the beard anyway, or the hair. So, going back to the chat. That was a comment that was left. Now going back to the chat yesterday, because I was too tired, I had to go. Yes, asked. May I ask your interpretation on Azazel, or Azazel, depending on your accent. So in the text in Vayikra, Leviticus 16:8, when it's the different rules and laws of Yom Kippur, the holiday of atonement, my favorite holiday incidentally. In the text, there is one goat that goes for Adonai, and there is one goat that is chosen for Azazel. Both of them are killed, but in different ways, and in different, let's say in different ways. So the goat that is killed for Adonai has, it's what's called an olah, a burnt offering. If I'm not mistaken, it's an olah. And the one for Azazel is let loose in the desert. Right? It says, L'shalachoto la'azazel hamidbara, to let him go in Azazel in the desert. And so we can see that there is definitely room to say that Azazel is a physical place. Azazel is a physical place in the desert. Now, the idea of Azazel, there are also two names, Uzzah and Azael, and there might be a connection there. Uzzah, Azael, and Azazel signify let's say, the wicked side, the negative side, the left side, the impure side, the other side, what's called in Aramaic Sitra Achra. And it's done on Yom Kippur, mind you, meaning that on the one hand, you give Adonai his due, as it were, with a goat, and on the other hand, you give the devil his due. And in doing that, you are able to make sure that the atonement that Israel undergoes is complete. I mean, I'm really, really simplifying it, but the idea is that while certain things are going on in the temple and the high priest is busy atoning through different rituals and things that happen only once a year, like going into the holiest of holies and putting incense on top of the ark, the cover of the ark of the tabernacle, certain things go down once a year on Yom Kippur, in the holiest of holies and outside of it. And so one of the things that happens is that we send out a goat. Now, in the Torah, in the written Torah, it says that the goat is sent in the desert, l'shalachoto. That means to let him go, to release him in Azazel in the desert. And in the oral traditions, they say that there was a cliff. There was one guy who would lead the goat into the desert, and then he would come to the edge of a cliff and push the goat down the cliff. And they say that the goat wouldn't make it through even the first half of the cliff, of the mountain, of the cliff, let's say, before he would already be just many jumbled organs, that he would be dead, completely dead. Okay, let's see. So my interpretation of Azazel, I don't know if I have my interpretation, but from the text as it's written in the book of Leviticus in Sefer Vayikra, we can see that it can be a physical place signifying an impure side of reality. And that part of the idea is that while very important things are going on in the temple, there's one very important thing that is also going on in the desert. And so it's, again, keeping this balance between the right hand and the left hand. Let's leave it at that for now. Taylor 26 mentioned Philo of Alexandria, right, who was a Jewish philosopher, but he was under the influence, let's say, of Hellenism, right, and of the Greek thought and philosophy of the time. I don't know if he's considered to be kosher or not, by and large, whether by orthodoxy or by other Jews. But he did mention him, and since we spoke of the king Melchizedek, and we spoke of the war between the 4 and the 5 kings in the book of Genesis in the earlier chapters, and he says that according to Philo of Alexander, the war of the 4 kings against the 4 kings represented the 4 passions. This must be something in Hellenistic philosophy that I don't know about because I'm ignorant, and that the 5 kings represented the 5 senses. Now, in the book of Genesis, if I'm not mistaken, the 4 kings beat the 5 kings, right? If I'm not mistaken. Now, what does that mean according to Philo of Alexandria? I don't know. Taylor 26, if you're watching, or if somebody else who knows a little bit more than I do, which is to say, I don't know anything about, let's say, Hellenistic philosophy or Jewish Hellenistic philosophy, or even Second Temple era Jewish philosophy proper. Is there something that you could tell us, that you could share here in the chat or in the comments later on the 4 kings against the 5, right? In accordance with those philosophies of passions and senses. I must say, no, you know what? Let's not go over it now, because I'm not Philo of Alexandria, nor do I know too much of him or his teachings. But Taylor, if you're listening, or someone else, by all means, let us know the spiel on the passions versus the senses and what that means. I can think of one thing in my head, but I'm not going to even go into it now because I'm going through the chat. Paula Harrison said, my favorite Seinfeld character is Kramer. I can understand why. I think mine would have to be George. Pretty much George. I think so. The shenanigans that he gets into, Kramer might be more physical, but George is crazier. That's what I'm thinking anyway. Craig Lee said, what is your favorite Seinfeld character, good people? Do let me know. Craig Lee said, you sound like my brother. We keep on keeping on. Give thanks and each day do our best. What else can we do? Honestly, what else can we do? I mean, surely we can make things worse. That's like a given. But we should also give proper mind and attention to how it is that despite our proclivity to make things worse, how is it that we can make things better? How is it that we can keep on keeping on in a way where we can give thanks, right? As Craig Lee said, that we can be thankful. How is it that we ought to behave in such a way that we will be able to look at the end of the day, at the previous day or this day, and give thanks and say it was worth it. Despite everything that's crappy and sucky about me, I give thanks to the Most High. I give thanks for those around me because it was worth it. That's the kind of behavior that I would like to, that's the kind of conduct that I would like to have. Not that I do, let's make that very, very clear. I'm not there yet, but that's what I would like to have. It's an ideal, right? It's an ideal. So yeah, Craig Lease, right on. Keep on keeping on, give thanks, and each day do our best. Yes said, these lower spirits, right? We were talking about, was it Yes or maybe someone else who asked me if I believe in demons and lower spirits, and I said that I do. I gave my reasons yesterday. Yes continued and said these lower spirits are called in Greek mythology agato, good, daemons, and kako, bad daemons. Now, he didn't say demons, he said daemons, and that's not the same thing at all. Whereas demons are seen as this kind of impure, right, left side, other side, sidra achra sort of thing in the Hebrew faith, right? That's like shedim, they are called. That's not what a daemon is. A daemon is, like he said, a lower spirit, but not quite a demon. A daemon is more like something which inhabits you. You can even think of it as a part of your psyche in some way. And I don't know enough about Greek mythology either, but that's the way that I've come to know the term daemon. Something which can guide you, direct you, and yes, continues and says, and these daemons interact a lot here. That's pretty much where we ended the chat. I'm going to go to the chat now, to this live chat, see if there's anything there, and then I'll continue with the comments that I received in the last day in the wake of yesterday's live stream. Okay, so let's see. So Team Mangua is here, BMXers is here, Jesse, the Burning Element is here. I will hopefully do the video, and I'll mention that later. Who else is here? Robert Harrison, just someone, Am Yisrael Chai, he writes in Hebrew, the people of Israel live, Chaim, Aishin. Yes, we do. We are alive. Many people, it pisses them off that the people of Israel are here, alive and kicking, but we are. Nothing to do about it, despite some people's, some nations' best efforts to kick us in the ass. It hasn't been fruitful. And I'm not saying that with pride or vanity. That's simply history. We are still here. And we will remain here. There is a covenant here that we still need to fulfill, to live up to. Oy, okay. Shalom and Erev Tov. Hello and good evening. Says Netzarim Nazarite. He's here too. Who else is here? Raul Raj 2005 is here as well. Apple Peel is here as well. Who else? I think that's whoever is here, at least in the chat. They say, I can see from the count, it kept going up and down. For a moment there when I was speaking a few minutes ago, it went to 36, 32, 12, 19, and now it's settled on 4 people viewing with 4 likes. Hey, 4 out of 4, you know? It's all good, it's all good. I'm very happy. I'm very happy with every single person who's here, who's not here, who will be here. It's so much fun to go live. It's so much fun to engage with you good people. I can't truly express how awesome it is to have this dialogue with you. All right, let's continue. Let's see. Sababa, let's go, says BMXers with dreadlocks. Team Mangwa says, how old are you? I am 41. It's hard to tell with your dreadlocks and beard. Says, I'm 41 years old. 41 glorious years here on this earth, 41 trips around the sun. I'm in the middle of my 42nd year, and thank God, I give thanks, I truly do. I have my ups and downs just like everyone, but if I can sit here at 10:15 p.m. in Jerusalem and stare into my phone and look at my computer here and engage with you good people, it must mean that even after all, for me personally, everything is okay. And that's truly a blessing, a real present, a clear and present blessing. And I give thanks. I do. Robert Harrison said, 30 people watching. Wow, hit the like button. Right, so I don't know. I think it was a glitch. I don't think 33 people were watching live. I think it was a glitch. BMXer says, Sababa. BMXer says, Yalla. Yalla must be the most used word in Hebrew and Arabic. Jesse says, they say that's the name of an angel in the book of Enoch. Azazel. In the book of Enoch. It makes sense because we have in the Midrash, in the external teachings, we have Uzzah and Azael, we have them in the Zohar, and we have them in the other Midrash, in the different external teachings, and it makes sense that it's the name of an angel, of a messenger from the left side, from the other side, if I'm not mistaken. But you, educate me, tell me. I read the book of Enoch, I think a long, long time ago. I'm not very versed in it, maybe at all, if it was the book of Enoch, because there is Sefer Chanoch, and there's the book of Enoch, and they are not the same thing. The book of Hanoch and the book of Enoch, even though they're named after the same individual, I don't think that they are the same thing. So do correct me. Do tell me, if you can, what type of angel it was. Maybe I'm right, maybe I'm wrong. Robert Harrison says, the priest would put his hands on the head of the goat, transferring the sins of Israel to the goat. Right, which is why it would be released in the desert. Funnily enough, in the Mishnah dealing with Yom Kippur, the Mishnah of Yoma, meaning day, they say that they had a ramp that would lead that person who would walk the goat. They had a ramp that would lead him to the desert, because before they built the ramp, people would be pulling at the hairs of the human messenger who was carrying the goat, and they would say, take it and go, take it and go, right? They would physically harm the human messenger holding the goat, right? I'm assuming it was tethered to something, some leash of some kind, perhaps, and he was walking him to the desert. Now, after he would let the goat go in the desert, whether he would let him go, whether he would physically watch him die, because that's what the Mishnah says, he says that he would let him go and physically watch him die as he pushed him down the mountain. And he basically, right, the day of Yom Kippur, the day of the holiday of atonement, is like a Sabbath. It's a Sabbath of Sabbath, Shabbat Shabbaton. So the guy who would be sent out to the desert could not come back into Jerusalem. They say that they had 10 tents along the way, okay, where he would start off in Zion at the temple, would take the goat on the way to the desert every so often. I don't remember the precise distance between the tents, but it was a measured and regular intervals, right, from Jerusalem to the desert. They would have, or to Azazel, to the place in the desert, they would have 10 tents along the way where they had food and water. And they would offer it to him and say, if you need it, here it is. Here's food, here's water. And that's simply so he will know that it's there, but nobody ever actually sat down and took a drink and had the food, because it is a fast day. But they simply said, here it is if you need it, in order to give him kind of mental strength. Because if you know that there is food and water available, what's called in halacha pat besalo, bread in his basket, if you know that there is bread in your basket, you are less hungry than when you have no bread in your basket. Meaning, even though he was fasting, the dude who was walking the goat to the desert, he still had the idea, the strength taken from, okay, somebody's looking after me, there's food, there's water. So he would go past 10 tents, would push the goat down the mountain, would watch it die, and then go back to the final tent and wait out the fast there. And when the sun went down and the stars came out and the fast would be over, then presumably he would join the other people in the other tents as they kind of folded it up and returned one by one to Zion to celebrate with everyone and with the high priest on the holiday that was that had passed with atonement. And that's a grave and wonderful thing. So yes, that's how it would happen. Right? It said that he would take their sins into a land of, what would be Eretz Gzera? Into, let's say, a cursed land, although it's not a precise translation. Okay, wait. Oh, am I glitching here? No, I'm not glitching. Just my mistake. Okay, let's see. So Raul said, please tell me something in the name of Raul. I don't know of the Hebrew translation of the name Raul, so I don't know what to tell you, I'm afraid. Sorry. I'm very, very sorry to disappoint you. If there is a direct Hebrew translation of the word Raul, then maybe I would then be able to give you some insight into the name regarding the letters and their order and the punctuation and what it might mean, but I have no idea since it's not a Hebrew name, so it's difficult for me to say. Okay. Only count to 45, says Timangwa. I'm not sure what that means. Does this relate to something I was speaking of earlier? I'm sorry, you'll have to say it again, or rather remind me of what I said again. Apple Peel says, good day, sir. Can I convert to Judaism from another religion? Well, first of all, according to the Hebrew faith, yes, you can. But let's put it this way. Once you are a Hebrew man or woman, even if you convert to another religion, you remain part of the Hebrew people and under the Hebrew covenant of law, of Torah, of mitzvahs, commandments. So there could very well be other ways of life and other religions and other spiritual paths where they say the same thing, where even if you would convert to Judaism, you remain X or Y or Z. And so even though you converted maybe externally, you internally, on the inside, are still whatever you were before, just like it is the case in the Jewish or Hebrew faith, where they say, if you're Jewish, you're simply Jewish. Nothing can rid you of that. Once you make a bond with the Most High, once you make that covenant of a personal nature, of a national nature, there's no escaping it, and you will be a Jew until you die, right? Hebrew person until you die. So I don't know. You look like the CEO of Google. Well, that doesn't help you much. I don't know what the CEO of Google looks like. Much to my shame, I honestly don't know what he looks like. But if you say so. Jesse says, just make a covenant with Hashem. You don't have to. Right, so he says you don't have to convert. You need to make your own personal covenant with God. Now, Orthodox Judaism would disagree. Other sects, other paths within Judaism would probably agree, some with Orthodoxy and some with what Jesse Link said. And I know that there's the very famous story of the Gentile, right, of the nations who wanted to convert, and he came to Hillel, who was a Second Temple era sage, Hillel the wise, Hillel the elder, and he says, can you teach me the entire Torah while I stand on one foot? And he told him, yes, what that which you hate, do not do unto your brother, right? That which you hate, do not do unto others. That's the entirety of the Torah. The rest is interpretation. Now go and learn it. So I'm inclined to agree in some ways with Orthodoxy and in other ways with Jesse Links, who says you need to make a personal covenant with God. Right? To accept the Hebrew God, to accept the yoke of Torah, and I mean, if you need to, go to the mikveh. If you need to, then have a covenant of circumcision, and that would make you a proper Hebrew man, right, or woman without the circumcision. But there are different ways of going about it. Like I said, Orthodox Judaism, it's a very, very long process, but I would think that most converts, and when I say most, I mean not just the world in the last 2,000 years where it's rabbinic law that's been more of the mainstream. Before that, we had thousands of years of covenants with God, of the Hebrew faith in one way or another, not technically the children of Israel, but we know that Abraham was born, according to the Hebrew calendar, in 1948, right? If it's now 5,784, right? So 1948, according to the Hebrew calendar, is when Abraham was born. Later on, when he was 99, he made a pact, a covenant with the Most High. And so since then, there have been Hebrew people. So let's see, Robert says, I love the book of Leviticus because I love the Levites. A lot of redemption in that book. Hello, Newman. You know, there are many people who don't connect to the book of Vayikra, of Leviticus, because it's considered to pertain mainly to the priests and to the ritual worship, to the sacrificial animals and the way that it goes about it, right? And the way that the ritual worship is conducted in the temple. There's so much there. I do connect to it in the way of worship, but there's a lot more action, let's say, in the other books. I won't deny that. BMXers says, sunshine, sunshine, reggae, let the good vibes get a little stronger, sunshine, sunshine, reggae, which he also said yesterday. Who are you quoting? Do tell me. Netzarim Nazarite says, the book of Enoch also refers to dark spirits on earth as the spirits of the Nephilim. Yes, that's correct. And they say that Uzzah and Azael were also of the Nephilim. Right? This idea of messengers, of divine beings who were jealous of human beings because we have choice. And the angels, the messengers, the spiritual beings do not have choice. And they said, we would rather go down to earth and live as human beings, sort of demi-human beings, and have free will, rather than stay here seemingly on a higher plane, seemingly on a higher level with higher status, closer to the divine revelation, seemingly, but without free will. And well, they kind of went astray, and they became a wicked force, right? Dark spirits, as he says, as Netzarim Nazarite says. Hello, my friend says yes. Hello to you. Good evening, or good day, or good morning, or good wherever you are, whatever it is. Good to see you all here. What a blessed land, says Jesse, right? I was presumably talking of Israel and Jerusalem, because I mentioned it earlier. BMXer says, have you seen the latest Adam Sandler movie? No, I'm more of a fan of Adam Sandler in the 90s and let's say early 2000s, I suppose. I haven't seen much of his later things, definitely not much of his current things. I still can appreciate, his acting chops and the silly, stupid movies. I've been told he's doing more drama now, or more leaning towards drama, right? Is that true? Do let me know, because I'm not sure. Robert Harrison says, do you remember when God was going to kill Moses? Yes, when he met him in the desert, and then Tzipporah, his woman, cut off the foreskin of his firstborn. So, yes, I remember that. Was that it? That was, let's see. Oh, that was it. Noam Asulin says, אתה מדבר עברית או אוסלין? כן, אני מדבר עברית. שוטפת אפילו. Okay, let's see. Jesse Link, wait, Robert, what about remember when God was going to kill Moses? Do share. What about that? Jesse Link says, supposedly that angel, Azazel, taught people how to make weapons of war, and that's where war came from. Well, look, it's the descendants of Cain, if I'm not mistaken, according to the text. Was it his grandson, Tuval Cain, or his great-grandson? Either way, not very far down the line from Cain, there were the weapons of war. Now, whether or not the evil spirits who came sort of in a human body, right, in some sort of a, what would be the word? The word escapes me. But oh, come on, incarnate, right? The dark spirits incarnate, right? In human form, let's say. It makes sense that there would be some sort of connection there. But I don't think they wanted to make war. I think it's something that came upon them when they were here in the physical reality. I don't think they wanted to make war. Because if you're talking about messengers and angels who have no free will, there's also a place to ask, if they have no free will, where from then came their jealousy? Where from then came their envy, if you will, of human beings and of their capacity to choose? And these are questions that I'm not going to tackle immediately right now. I want to continue with the chat, but it's definitely something to think about. And right, there are lower spirits, higher spirits. These are beings which are tasked, much like we are tasked with, right? We have a job to do as individuals, as a collective human race, as different nations. We each have a job to do. And they also had their job to do. So they say that they rebelled, so to speak. And I know that many people consider the rebel to be Lucifer in the Christian traditions, and those who follow Yeshua, right? Satan, the devil, whatever it is. It's in the book Pardes Rimonim, when the Ramak, Rabbi Moshe Cordovero, talks of the other side and of the other realms and of the unclean, impure, right, the left side and the realms and the different chambers where there are spiritual beings that are in charge, right, guards put in place who try to influence this world and who set the stage for human beings to fall. They each have a name, they each have their position. It's all very precise. Divine revelation, whether it's the higher one, the lower one, it's all very precise. That's one thing which the 10 Sfirot, the Tree of Life, teach us, right? There's a precision there. There's obviously a random element in this world here, because here we have nature, which is very random. It has a precision element to it and a very random element to it. But when you don't have physical nature, and you have the higher planes, the spiritual planes, be they of the left side or the right side, right, the holy side or the profane and desecrating side, there's a lot more of a precision there with everything in its right place, to quote Radiohead. Okay, let's continue. I am loving this. I hope I'm getting to people in the chat, and I hope I'm able to answer or address things in a way which is palatable to you. Eva, it's evil woman. Do you mean Eve or Eva? Carl, is it Chut? I'm going to say Carl Trey Crate Crabel. Carl Trable. Trable, that's quite a mouthful there. Hello, Carl, nice to see you. Eva, it's evil woman. Now, if you're talking about Chava, Eve, who was Adam Arishon, right, Adam's woman, I don't think that she was evil. I think that she let evil in, so to speak. That does not make her evil. But let's leave it at that. Why do you, Carl, say that Ava, it's evil woman? Why do you say it? Do share. I'd like to know. By the way, says BMXers, is Yalla actually Arabic or both Hebrew and Arabic? No, it's definitely Arabic. It's a kind of, well, no, Yalla is definitely Arabic. So is Ya Allah, right? Obviously Arabic. How's your elder brother? Asks Robert Harrison. My elder brother is doing very well. He is, what a mensch. He is quite a man. I look up to him. I'm proud. I could not be more proud of him. And I love the guy. He's a wonderful elder brother. So down to earth, yet so, so humble. He's a good guy. He's a good kid. And wait, let's see. I can't read Arabic once again, to my shame. I can't read Arabic. I speak a word here and there, but I can't read it. He says, you love Palestine. If you say so. And I'll leave it at that. And Noam says, "אתה מדבר עברית?" So I am. Do you speak Hebrew? Yes, I do. Hebrew is my mother tongue. So is English. I'm bilingual. Netzarim says, forever bound to Am Yisrael, and 100%. Through agreements and disagreements, I am Judah's and Judah is mine. Am Yisrael Chai. The people of Israel live. Yes, may we live in peace with our neighbors. Yes, says, concerning ZIZ plus 2, land and sea beings, it sounds similar to Zeus' original name of Jupiter, common Poseidon rival. I'm sorry, yes, I can read what you're saying there, but I'm not making the connections that you are making with that statement. If you could simplify it for me, dumb it down for me. I am but a lowly little YouTuber, and I don't exactly know what you mean when you said all that. Or if somebody else knows what yes means when he said that in the chat, do tell me. Robert asks, what is your interpretation of the part of Nivrim where it's the genealogy? Is it simply just that, or something deeper by meaning of the names might tell a story? What do you mean Nivrim? Do you mean Nevi'im, the books of prophets? I'm not exactly sure what you mean. I don't know what Nivrim is, so you'll have to simplify it for me. Once again, I'm sorry, I'm not getting it. Definitely it's my fault. I'm sure I'm just not understanding because I'm not reading it properly or something, but I don't quite get... Okay, but you know what? I get kind of what you're meaning. Do genealogies have a meaning? I'm inclined to say yes, because whether it's in the Torah or the prophets or the writings, each part of the Hebrew Bible has its own revelation, let's say, that came into the world, and many times the order and the different names that came into being, right? This one begat that, and this begat that. It sounds very technical, not to mention boring, but yes, even things, maybe even most, and especially the technical parts of the Bible, the technical parts of the books of Moses, they are the ones which convey an even deeper meaning and truth, because it deals a lot with numbers, and it deals with names, right? Names convey an essence of a human being. It's not like an action. It's not like something came to pass. It has to do with a name. Now, you could go all Shakespeare and say, what's in a name? A rose by any other name would still be as sweet, smell as sweet. But yes, the names have meaning. We know this from Genesis, because Adam Arishon, is the one who names, according to Torah, who named everything. And so names have a lot of meaning, right? Names convey a certain essence. And so yes, there's definitely a deeper meaning there, but you'd have to go and address it on a case-by-case basis, I think. By the way, says BMXers, I think the CEO of Google also have dreadlocks, but ginger hair. I forgot his name now. All right, so I guess that's why the dude said I look like him. Jesse says, in my opinion, Hashem gave everyone free will. So when you say everyone, you mean not just You mean not just human beings, but you mean also the spiritual beings. Okay, that's interesting. That's an interesting way to look at it. Definitely. Definitely an interesting way to look at it. I'm quoting laid back, says BMXers. I thought it was a UB40 though, but I checked now. Oh, okay, so it's laid back. I know UB40. I don't know laid back. So it's good to know. Robert says, in the Torah, I see this a lot about atonement through blood and water. Israel went through blood on the door and through the water of the Red Sea. Yes, there is a lot to do with atonement and with blood and with water, whether it's thrown against the altar or whether it's something that was drunk, whether it's something that was... Yes, there is a lot in blood and water. Blood signifies the left side and water signifies the right side. Right? Chesed, right? The hand that pushes away and the hand that embraces. Left and right, good and bad, good and evil, chesed and din. So there's, like I mentioned before, right? It's this against this, and it's a question of balance. Now, when it comes to water, we saw in last week's Torah portion that the wayward woman, the woman gone astray, which appears before the Nazarite vow, she had to drink water, and it went into one of two ways. If she was actually pure and didn't cheat on her husband, she would live, and she would be blessed. If she did cheat on her husband, then she would be put to death with the water. The water would be the physical cause of the death, at least according to Torah. And so we see that water, even though it's a life-giving thing that mammals cannot live without, certainly human beings, right? We breathe air and we drink water, but water can be life and water can be death. We know this physically speaking, that if you drink too much water, your blood will become so thin that you will not be able to sustain, right? The oxygen will be so thinned out from your bloodstream that you literally will die from over drinking and over consuming water. Likewise, in blood, it's not left and right absolute. There is pure blood and impure blood. The impure or unclean blood, for instance, is when there's an injury where the blood just continues to gush out, what's called zav or zava in Hebrew, and a person who has this blood is cast away from all the three camps, from the tabernacle and the Levitical camp and the 12 tribes surrounding it, all the way on the outside. That's something like unclean blood, or the blood of menstruation, which is also considered unclean. On the other hand, after a woman gives birth, also mentioned in the Torah, even if blood comes out of her after the week or 2 weeks, depending if she had a son or a daughter, then any blood that comes out after that is considered pure blood, cleaner blood. And it has to do with where it comes from, it has to do with the way that it is revealed in the world. But whether it's blood or whether it's water, it's a duality, right? We're dealing all the time with dualities here in this world, right? Balancing them, reconciling them, working with both of them, channeling both of them, knowing the difference between kosher and non-kosher, between pure and impure, clean and unclean. This is what the Torah and the mitzvot, the commandments, are guiding us. This is where they are guiding us to, right? We have commandments of do's and don'ts for that precise reason, as I've mentioned in the past. But when it comes to atonement, there's atonement through speech, there's atonement through sacrifice, there's atonement through monetary compensation, if you will. Pardon? Good night, my dear. My firstborn says good night at 20 to 11 p.m. This kid, huh? Kiran Shriman Army says India. Yes, I'm a fan of India. It's such an ancient people, and they have, sure, they have many gods, but that's their thing, and this is my thing. So even if I have one Hebrew God, it doesn't mean that everybody needs to have it quite yet. People have their own ways, nations have their own paths, and there's so much wisdom in the Hindu faith, in the different Vedas, and in the in the different teachings of the in the ancient Sanskrit. And somebody like Sadhguru, right? I mean, somebody like Sadhguru, he has a lot of wisdom, right? And even though I don't turn to him in matters of faith, I have heard him speak on matters of like everyday life and conduct, and there is a lot of wisdom to a lot of the things that he has said and continues to say. and it's lovely. I haven't actually watched a video of his in a long time, but there was a time when I was totally into him, watching him give lectures, watching him speak to the crowds, watching him at different festivals, sometimes live. Not for a very long time, but I did certainly have a time when I was when Sadhguru was on my radar. Yes, I am talking about Behemoth, Leviathan, and Ziz, one who ends their fight. I don't recall these, right? Behemoth we know, Leviathan we know. There's also the two called Nachash Akalton and Nachash Kadmoni, right? Different manifestations of the wicked side, the left side, the unclean side, the impure side, the klipot. Klipot literally means shells or peels or husks, much like you have a fruit, let's say an orange, right? There's a lot of nutrients, right, in the peel. And you can have essential oils from the peel. And there's a lot that you can do with it. But if you want to consume the fruit itself, you must peel it off. You must get rid of it. It still can serve a purpose. But if you want to eat the fruit, you must peel things off. And the klipot, right, the wicked side, and the forces of evilness, of wickedness, of uncleanliness, right, the bad side, the other side, it's all there because it also has a job to do. And part of that job is to be a barrier between us and the fruit. And we are meant to take action, to grab that and peel it off with our behavior, with our speech, with our conduct, keeping the commandments, keeping to our covenant, being good, kind, decent, honest, truthful people. That's what causes these klipot, these shells, these husks to be taken away, right? Much like in circumcision of a male on the 8th day, you uncover that penis that is later on to give life. It's something like that. Let's continue. BMXer says, in the latest Adam Sandler movie, You Are So Not Coming to My Bat Mitzvah, I think I saw that. I actually did see that one. I did see that one. Ha! Right, I forgot that I did see You Are So Not Coming to My Bat Mitzvah. I think it's called, yeah. The kid the movie mostly revolves around kind of looks like your son Daniel. What do you mean? Isn't it a girl? I'm pretty sure it's You Are So Not Invited to My Bat Mitzvah, and that it revolves around a girl, but I might be wrong. BMXers with dreadlocks, Kiran, the flag of Israel, the flag of India, and love. Israel, India, friend. Yeah, you know what? People ask me sometimes if I've been to India because of the dreadlocks. And I say no. And they say, oh man, you gotta go there. It's awesome. I've never really felt compelled to go there, though I don't doubt that it's a very interesting place, to say the least. Robert says, I have wondered if any of the lost tribes have Nazarites in 2024. Well, as I've said, I'm of the opinion that Nazarites are always around in one form or another, whether it's from the kingdom of Judah, still around, or the lost kingdom of Israel. I'm inclined to say yes. I'm basing it on nothing, with no evidence whatsoever, just my inner feeling, which might be 100% wrong. Yes, says, avatars of Vishnu are capable of giving historical and spiritual explanations. Krishna is first Zeus. Also says how some angel beings who fought invading demons decided in order to help people even more become humans now and then. Right, so it's that spiritual demon who helps human become more human. Right? Something external, a force that is external to this physical reality, which comes into this reality, and in doing so, right, it sort of makes plainer and clearer the humanity and the other side that is here. I understand, I think now what you're saying. I think I understand what you're saying here. Yes, and I'm inclined to agree. There's the in Sefer Yetzirah, Avraham Avinu, right, our father Abraham, he says that good differentiates bad and bad differentiates good, right? It's that whole yin and yang thing, where you can't have one without the other, and it's through one that you see the other. And there's the reflection of one in the other, which is why in the famous yin-yang symbol, you have a bit of darkness in the light and a bit of light in the darkness. And what you want is to be on that edge, in between, right? You want to have the best of both worlds manifesting through you, right? That's what the Tao Te Ching teaches, and that's also what the Hebrew faith teaches, right? The good mitzvahs, the do's and the don'ts. By the way, says BMXers, has anybody seen the last episode of American Gods? You know, I haven't seen that at all. I know of it, but I haven't seen it at all. Nitzarim says, I love India too. Most Indians I've met throughout life are wonderful. The cuisine is amazing too. I love seeing all the support online for Israel from India. Well, I don't know, because I try to stay away from everything to do with the war online. It's enough experiencing it here in Israel, you know? It's enough experiencing it here in Israel. So I definitely appreciate all the support that Israel is getting from its people, you know, from different people all around the world. Lord knows we could use the support and the encouragement. Definitely. That's the end of the chat right now. I'm going to just zoom right back to a couple of comments that I haven't addressed yet that arrived during this day today. So Robert said earlier, because we were talking about Seth Hall yesterday in the live stream, and he says, Seth Hall seems to be in a dark place. We love him. He seems to be angry at God. So, right, I mentioned that he's active on Facebook. Presumably, Robert checked out Seth Hall's posts of late. I don't want to discuss it, because I don't want to be like talking about him behind his back. I'll just say he does seem to be going through something, and maybe, who knows, maybe he will join us one day here, and he will be able to explain a little bit more of, you know, what he's going through, and maybe we will be able to encourage him a little bit and restore some of his faith in himself and in the Most High. Now, Kneezer, I'm assuming it's a hard K and not a soft K. Kneezer, yes, and I, throughout this day, we had a back and forth in the comments on human beings being the temple of God, since it's something that the original, right, image of God, the temple of God, because I mentioned it yesterday, saying that we could technically skip over the third temple. Maybe we will, maybe we won't. Technically, it can be done. And right, rather than a temple where there's ritual worship and sacrifices are made, certainly of living beings, we can sort of go and skip that and go straight to the human being, the image of God, being the real temple and where God resides, right? Like it says in the Torah, it says they will make a temple and I will reside in them, right? Right? They may make a place and I will dwell in them. It doesn't say they will make me a temple and I will dwell in it. It says in them. So now Christians and different followers of Yeshua, which yes and Kneezer presumably are, correct me if I'm wrong, they, them and others keep on telling me the same things regarding Yeshua being a manifestation of God, a kind of God incarnate, right? The perfect man, the perfect God, and everything in between. And I'm simply not having it. It's not the way of the Torah. And no matter how many times people continue to tell me that Jesus, that Yeshua is exactly what I'm talking about here, I still maintain, and if you want, you can check out the discussion. It's in the comments on yesterday's video, Sunday stream. Check it out if you want. It's a quick back and forth, not like 100 comments, but you know, we get into it a little bit. But I still maintain very strongly, always have, that Yeshua is a dead man, no more, no less. That's where it ends for me. But I do understand those who consider him anything else, because that's their way. You know, that's their way. This one is mine. Provide Leverage said, ramblings are the best part, because I said yesterday that I want to leave before I start rambling too much, something to that effect. And so he said ramblings are the best part, and a few people in the comments agreed with him. I thank you for the vote of confidence and for the lovely sentiment. Now, who am I to go against popular opinion, right? So if you want ramblings, well, guys and gals, that's all you're gonna get in this channel. Just my ramblings. Just my ramblings. That's what you're gonna get. BMXers was surprised that I knew that BMX was an acronym to begin with. I actually thought it was common knowledge. I told him as much. And he said that there's not a chance that anyone ever thought it's common knowledge because it came to pass in the 70s, right? BMX started to come out in the 70s, and people did not have ways to Google it and to know. So only people who were actual BMX riders presumably knew, you know, those who were interested in the cycling culture, the riding culture, the tricks and the different things. they probably knew he said, or something to that effect. I guess I'm inclined to agree, though because it's all caps, that's why I would presume it was an acronym to begin with. So Jesse Links asked, bro, can you do a video on Hashem's four-letter name? So this is not that video. Definitely, I want to make that video. I've spoken of the four-letter name in the past in previous videos, some that were deleted and not by me, and some that were not, and they're still in the old channel archive in my channel. Right, the old channel from 2018. As you know, I have like 100 and something videos from the old channel that was removed. And maybe I speak of it there, and I will definitely want to do a video on that. And there is already a video in the channel that I did a few months ago, I think, spontaneously, on the four-letter name of God, which is Ehyeh, not the one which is pronounced Adonai. So if you want to check out that video on a different four-letter name of God, where I also obviously reference that four-letter name, the Tetragrammaton as it is known, Yod Hei Vav Hei, right? Seen one way and spoken another, written one way and spoken another. So I will attempt to make that video in my own amateurish way. And again, you must know that what I go with is the Pardes Rimonim, the teachings of the Ramak, the teachings of the Tree of Life, brought down by the Ramak, Rabbi Moshe Cordovero in Pardes Rimonim, and other teachings. All right, let's see, there was one other thing. Okay. I'm going to jump back in the live chat, see if there's anything there, and if there isn't, I'm going to probably say goodbye. Okay. נועם says, כל הכבוד על האמונה, באמת הייתי רוצה להאמין במישהו כל כך, זה יותר רנדומלי או כאוס לפחות בשבילי. Quick on the fly translation, he says, well done for the faith. I would really like to believe in something, well, he says, in someone so much, it is more random or chaotic to me. Well, Noam, I simply found something that I could not ignore. I mean, I grew up modern Orthodox in Jerusalem, הייתי דתי לאומי מאז ומתמיד, so it was kind of baked right in. But I definitely went through a point where I was standing and trying to understand the faith, and trying to understand why it is that I am here, what is it that I'm doing, what is this Torah, what is this way of life, why bother keeping the commandments at all, and what is this God that everybody is speaking of. There is definitely a random and chaotic element to being itself, and if there's too much chaos and too much randomness, it will take you out. That's part of why I think faith is such an important thing, because it sort of girds you against the chaos. It girds you against that seemingly random element where, I could drop dead any second. Completely random, completely chaotic, completely natural, right? An aneurysm in my head, boom, I die live on the air. Does that mean that I did something wrong? Maybe. Or maybe it means that sometimes Mother Nature just takes you out. Just takes you out, right? Mother Nature can be the caring and giving and warm mother, and she can be the cruel, unforgiving, cut you off at the knees and leave you to bleed at the side of the road kind of mother, right? The kind of mother like animals who eat their young or kill them because they're too weak, or if they need to survive for the winter, that kind of thing. And both of them exist here in this creation. So look, Noam, I don't know if you're following me in English or not. I'm assuming you are. If you've been here so far and now you're saying it in the chat, I'm only assuming that you're following here with the English. Noam, I wouldn't presume to know what it is that would give you faith, but I would definitely encourage you to seek some sort of faith, whether it's in yourself, and to be the type of person who can stand up straight and say, despite all of my crappiness and suckiness and my weakness and my failure, I'm doing this and this and that, which is a good thing, and have faith in yourself. Now, some might say that's vanity, pride, and ego, but when a person sometimes feels so much chaos and so much randomness, and they have no spiritual faith or no spiritual covenant, no bond to hold on to, then having faith in oneself and in one's, let's say, higher self, if not divine self. That's something that you can hang on to, even if you're not religious, even if you don't consider yourself spiritual or a believer in anything. You can behave in such a way. You can be a truthful, honest, good, kind, reliable individual, a responsible individual to those around you. And you can be that to such a degree that even when you are at your lowest, because we hate ourselves sometimes, and sometimes we deserve it, but we don't deserve to feel that way all the time. And if you can work your way through the world and conduct yourself in the world in such a way where you will be able to, even at your lowest points, still hang on to something about you that's good, what Rabbi Nachman calls nikudot tovot, points of goodness, right? The good things about you. You'll be able to, I think, survive this world despite all of the crap. Robert says, hey, can you share how you met Messianic friend? All right. I'm not sure if you're talking to me or someone in the chat, because I'm not sure which Messianic friend you're talking about. If you're talking about the guy who I met in the Netherlands, who I had a chavruta, an ongoing study session with when I was there, then there's that. So let me know if that's the person you're talking about. By association only, I think that's what you're talking about. Yes, says, your opinion on matters is actually very close to Orthodox faith. Yes, because I grew up modern Orthodox in Jerusalem. It's still my home. It's still my culture. I don't consider myself Orthodox because I don't keep strict halakha anymore. But I definitely consider modern Orthodox Judaism to be my home. And I'm very fond of it. And much like I said about the individual now, despite the places where Orthodoxy sucks, and there are places like that to be sure, there's so much richness, such abundance, so much goodness in the modern, and not the modern, Orthodox faith, that it's something worth clinging to, even if it has its bad points. A person can filter them out, and you can say that he is off the path, off the derech, as they say, but then he's going in his own path. There are times like the famous Zen koan, when you meet the Buddha on the road, kill him, right? Because you need a master, you need a Buddha, you need someone to look up to, an enlightened one. But then, once you yourself become enlightened a little bit, if you meet him on the road, on your road, you need to kill him. Because it's no longer serving the purpose of enlightening you, then it simply is a hindrance. Then it's simply that idea of comparison being the thief of joy. Now this has to be done very, very, very carefully. You need to be cautious, because it could be just pride and ego and vanity, right? And your left side pushing it away, saying, no, no, I don't need to learn anything more. I don't need to learn anything else. I don't need a master. So it needs to be done with great care and great caution, but it's definitely the case that if you go on that road and then it becomes your road, truly and honestly, and then you meet the Buddha, kill him, because it's not your Buddha anymore. It can be somebody else's Buddha, but not yours. You are Bodhi, right? You are the enlightened one. I am surprised myself, says Yes. Thank you, though I meant Christian Orthodox, Greek, Russian. Oh, I see. So look, about that, Orthodox means straight, right? Like orthodontist is a teeth straightener. Orthodox means straight way, if I'm not mistaken. And the Greek and Russian Orthodoxy, and the other ones too, Peace and Coffee, if I'm not mistaken, is an Orthodox Christian, and he has taught me a lot about Orthodox Christianity in our ongoing dialogue in the DMs and Facebook over a long time already. And he's even enlightened me as to what goes on, let's say, in the places of worship of Orthodox Christianity. And there are many parallels to the priesthood and the temple and things that went on there, things that I found very, very interesting. Again, not in matters of faith, but in matters of wisdom, where I could say to myself, no, I don't belong to that faith, and I don't consider it to be true in a spiritual way, but I can definitely see how those who do follow it for these reasons precisely. I could definitely see that. Now, I know that you meant, now that you've said it, I know that you meant Christian Orthodox, but if my opinions on matters are very close to Orthodox faith in Christianity, it is only because I used to be an Orthodox Jew. So that's precisely what I'm saying. There are certain parallels there in the way of thinking, perhaps, and in the way of well, like you said, what did you say? Opinions on matters. That's very close, with a major divide in between in the form of Yeshua, but very close. Yes, I believe there is a closeness there, and a great divide in between. BMXers says, have you seen the Bob Marley movie yet? No, I have not, though you told me I should see it. Other people told me I should see it. Avimori, Ira Hurwitz says, my father says, speaking of mothers, he'll go and he'll fight, and I hope they put him on the front line. That's a wonderful quote from Woody Allen's Love and Death. Yeah, thanks a lot. My mother, folks. Thank you, says yes. Oh, I'm sorry, I already read that. We'll see. Toda gever. Thanks, man, says Noam. Hey, look, maybe everything that I'm blah blah blahing right now is absolute crap. You should definitely not listen to me. I don't speak in absolutes, and I don't want you to receive this in an absolute way. I'll just say that if you are still drawing breath, Noam, it means that you still have a job to do. Now, on the one hand, that could suck, because it means that you have a job to do that you may not be doing, or maybe you are. But on the other hand, there's a lot of promise in that, because you are still alive. And while you are still alive, there is still hope, right? Kol od haner dolek, efshar od letaken. Right? As long as the candle burns, there is room for redemption. ואם אתה מאמין שאפשר לקלקל, תאמין שאפשר לתקן. If you believe you can make things wrong, believe you can make things right. Two very important tenets of Breslev Hasidism and of the Hebrew faith at large are, even after all, in your own horrible state, there is still something you can do to make it much worse. All the time. And if there is something you can do even at this very moment to make it much, much worse, and there is, believe that the counterpart to that also exists. It may not be as evident, but it's there, and you can make things so much better. Maybe first of all for others around you, and through that for yourself. Because, you know, the things that we do, it's like throwing a pebble in a pond and things ripple out. We all know the idea of the butterfly effect, the ripple effect. And we are human beings, the image of God, and there's so much to us, so much. Now, I don't know you, Noam, and I don't know what you're going through or what your life has been, but if you can sit here on Monday, I'm not sure where you are, presumably you might be in Israel because you're writing in Hebrew, but if you're over here listening in on this chat, so at least for now, just for now, maybe things will be horrible as soon as, you know, in a few seconds, but right now, it means that things are okay, all things considered. Right, hell, there's a war going on. At this very moment, there are soldiers and security forces who are fighting, who are in the middle of terrible ordeals and terrible hardships, and yes, also on the side of the enemy and of the Palestinians, if you will. I'm not negating that. There's a lot of suffering on both sides. I won't go into that now. The point is that we are here now, and there's something we can do, if only slightly, to make things better for ourselves, for those around us. That's all we could do. That's all we could do, man. So I hope that maybe there's some kind of solace and comfort, a little bit, but maybe not. Probably not, because what do I know, right? What do I know? T. Mangwa says, how old are you? You don't look a day over 46. Well, all right then, I'll take it. I'm 41. So I suppose I don't look a day over 46. The Messianic Jewish guy in your neighborhood in Israel. Oh, okay. So right. So talking about the Messianic Jewish guy, I met him on Shabbos a couple of months ago when I went to play soccer with my boys on the pitch close to where we live, and he was there with his boy, and we got to talking. And then a week later, I met his woman, and we got to talking. So yeah. They're good people. They seem to be good people. Gia or Chia or Gaia, I'm assuming it's Gia since it's a J, Moses, and he cries, "Why do you cry? Why do you cry?" Chili says, "Hello, hello to you, Chili. It's good to have some spice. A variety of is the spice of life, but chili is the spice of this live stream." All right. Timangwa says, "When did you first hear about Muhammad Def?" Muhammad Def is the leader of the militant wing of Hamas, to those who are unaware. I first heard of Muhammad Def probably over 20 years ago. That's when I would think. Probably around maybe the time of the Second Intifada, probably around 20 odd years ago. Yes says, "Why do you ask?" According to John's Apocalypse, Dan's tribe, the tribe of Dan, is to be replaced by Binyamin. Binyamin or Binyamin? I'm assuming you mean Benjamin, Binyamin. Was someone except Samson from Dan? Well, what do you mean? There was a whole tribe of people from Dan, right? Now, if I'm not mistaken, Dan was one of the first tribes that was not able, in the book of Joshua, correct me if I'm wrong, maybe someone else look it up because I'm live streaming here. Speaking of which, it's been over an hour. I give thanks to Adonai, but I think I'm going to go soon. If I'm not mistaken, Dan is the first tribe that during the conquest of the Holy Land, of the land of Canaan, Dan is the first tribe that was not able to overtake the enemies of his designated plot of land, and so they went and they joined a different tribe further up north, if I'm not mistaken. But no, on the other hand, we read that the camp of Dan in the story of Samson was Ben Zo'av ben Zo'ain Ishtaol outside of Jerusalem. So now I'm not sure if I'm mistaken or not. I'm probably mistaken. Somebody enlighten me. Look quickly in the book of Joshua. Well, I don't know if we'll get to it now, but God willing, I will leave a comment or we'll talk about it in tomorrow's live stream on what exactly happened there. With which one was the first tribe to not be able to conquer their enemy completely, or even to such a degree that they could settle the land. Tel Aviv seems to be modern Dan territory. Okay, that makes some sense, but either it was up north, but they had to go somewhere else, or they were somewhere else, but they had to go up north. I think that's the tribe of Dan. It kind of rings true, but I don't fully remember. Okay. So I think I'm going to say goodbye. Oh, I will leave you with one thing from this week's Torah portion, Beha'alotcha. One quick thought on, in this week's Torah portion, there's the idea of the second Passover, what's called Pesach Sheni, where people who are impure and defiled by death, who cannot make the sacrificial offering of the Passover on the full moon or near the full moon of the first month of Nisan, in the time of the desert, in the time of the wandering in the desert, right, there was the first original Passover in Egypt. A year later, when they were supposed to make the same sacrifice in the desert, there were people who were defiled by death, and they came to Moses and they said, "Look, we are impure, we are unclean. Ritually, we are not allowed to make the sacrifice. We cannot make the offering. Why should we not be able to make the offering?" And Moses says, "Well, hold up here. Just wait a second. I'll see what God says." So he rings up the Most High, so to speak, and God tells them, okay, if somebody is impure or on a faraway journey, they can do it 1 month later. Now, the Rabbi Erez Moshe Doron, who was a modern-day Breslov rabbi, he had a teaching on this that was so lovely, because it's speaking of second chances. Noam, if you're still here, speaking of second chances and giving yourself a break, so to speak, and trying, even though you are not in the proper place. These people really, really wanted to be part of the children of Israel and make the Passover offering, as they are commanded to do with the rest of the nation. But because of a technicality, and you could argue over the nature of the technicality, but it was defilement of death. Somebody who they were close to, a friend, family member, died, and they were defiled, and so they couldn't make the offering during that time. And God says, you know what? If somebody is on a faraway journey, meaning away from their home, away from where they belong, on a faraway journey, And that journey doesn't need to be geographically far away, by the way. It can be, according to the, let's say, the New York Nazarite, right? The New York Nazarite, Aleph Aleph. Check him out on YouTube. He said that the Nazarite is always on a faraway journey, but I digress a little bit. He says that a person who's on a faraway journey, or a person who is ritually unclean, who cannot make the sacrifice, that person can make it a month later. The same rules apply. You must eat the matzah, you must eat the bitter herbs, you must slay the lamb or goat and have it at that precise time in that precise way a month later. And you would think that there would be a kind of absolute there, maybe. Nope, this is the day, this is the time, everybody's doing it, and if they can't, well then there's no redemption, there's no redeeming it. But no, God says, hey, what's the problem? Just do it later. Now, this is not a form of procrastination. It's this idea of God making the impossible possible, as it were. And it's the idea of Moses being that great bridge that says, Imdu ve'eshme'ah, just stand still and I will hear what God says. And the teaching that Rabbi Moshe, Erez Moshe Doron, gives in his book, Inner Light, Or Pnimi, and he says that the idea of the Passover and of redemption is so strong that these people and their desire to be redeemed of their own Egypts in the desert, let's say, was so strong that they, even though they couldn't do it, first of all, they took action. They weren't just like, oh, well, can't do it. What are you going to do? No, they took action. They did a positive thing. They moved in that direction. And in doing so, Moses was able to bridge that gap between their impurity and the Passover offering. So that's the one thought I wanted to give on this week's Torah portion before I leave. Oh, one more question here. Alextazi, are you religious? I don't consider myself religious by definition because I don't follow a specific rabbi. I don't follow rabbinic law as strictly as I used to. And I don't want to give people the false or wrong impression of that I am a religious Orthodox Jew. So no, I don't consider myself religious. I consider myself a de facto spiritual Hebrew person, right? Trying to be, striving to be, not quite there yet, huh? And the last comment here in the chat before I go, yes, says most of Greeks 3,500 years before were called Danans. In general, Dan means water, probably some expelled Cretans. Cretans or Grecians? Cretans? I know the term, but it escapes me. See, because I'm tired. I'm going to say goodbye. If you people have any other thoughts, comments, concerns, complaints, vile language, anything you'd want to sling at me, go for it. I'm going to stop right here. Thank you all, each and every one of you. This has been such a blessing, such an honor, such a privilege to engage with you here, to be with you here, to broadcast with you here. God willing, I'll see you tomorrow, 10 p.m. Israel time for another live stream, and I'll see you then. Ba-boom.